Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week to 10 days first of all in today's video. Then we'll have a look at the CFS V2 for the next month. That takes us into January. And then at the end, we'll go through the GFS ensembles, if you have time. Go through GFS ensembles and show you all the different options that are still playing out for Christmas. I know people do enjoy that, so have a look at that if you've got time at the end of the video. Before you get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, you have your page website. Big thanks to everybody for doing that. Chris Shop is still open. Still got time to get Chris Shopping out to you from Amazon. So if you've got any Chris Shop to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, just click the green button that says Chris Shop. It takes you to our Chris Shop page. And then from there, the key to it all is to go through the Amazon banners. And because you're going from Gaz Office to Amazon, we get a revenue fee on things that you're buying. And a big thank you to everybody for doing that. But a huge success yet again this year. So big thanks to everybody for doing Chris Shopping. You've still got time to get those presents out to you, but don't leave it too much longer. It's less than 2 weeks now, the big day. So thanks to everybody for doing that. I do want to start off with a bit of sad news, which is the death of Ian McCaskill. So this is Ian's obituary page on the Guardian website. Really sad news, really upset about hearing about Ian McCaskill's death. He was a big character in the 80s doing the weather on the BBC. During the sort of glory days of TV weather forecasting, if you like, when you had Ian McCaskill, Bill Giles, Michael Fish, John Keckley, Suzanne Charlton, and they were excellent forecasters and real characters as well. So Ian was actually my personal favourite, to be honest. I always loved it when Ian McCaskill was doing the weather. Just seen a very kind, very gentle and very clever and knowledgeable man. So I think we're all sad about the death of Ian McCaskill that was announced last night. And of course, we send our condolences to Ian McCaskill's colleagues, former colleagues, and friends and family at this very sad and difficult time. Right, let's get on with the video then. I'm going to start off with Central England temperature from Hadley. So this is how we provisionally stand up to yesterday, 12th of December. We currently stand at 6.6, an anomaly of around 1.5 degrees above average. So after that cold start, remember, 2 or 3 days into the month, it was really quite significantly colder than average, this, but completely switched around now, and it's gone quite significantly milder than average. I expect this to continue through the next few days. I'm not sure the anomaly will get a great deal higher than it is right now, but expect it to hold up at around 1.5 degrees above average for the next few days, and then probably starting to lower a bit as we get into the weekend, where we might start to generate some ground frost. At the moment, we are running warmer than February, which came in with CET at 5.6. That was 1 degree colder than the 61 to 1990 average. Obviously, if we was to continue this kind of anomaly, we would indeed have a warmer December than February, and that happened last year as well, when we had an extraordinary warmth during December 2015. I don't think we're going to get that level of warmth this year, so I don't think we're going to be breaking the record that was set last year in terms of December temperatures. But 2 years running, if it does happen to get December warmer than November, it is really quite unusual. I'm not sure that would have ever happened before. It is a fairly unusual occurrence at the best of times to get December coming out warmer than November, because it's a rapidly cooling time of year, of course. So just got to watch your space. I'll be surprised if it does end up warmer than December, but you never know. That was quite a cold November that we had last month, around 1 degree colder than average. So it's not impossible that this December might come out warmer than the month before. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Just have a look at the GFS ensembles the next couple of weeks, looking at the upper air temperatures first of all, and then we'll have a look at precipitation. This is the 30-year temperature average, and going to be solidly above average with the upper air temperatures anyway over the next week. This takes 21st of December just there, which I believe is a week tomorrow. So above average with the upper air temperatures, but it is a very anticyclonic period. You can see from given the lack of precipitation spikes here, just how high pressure dominated the period is going to be. So it doesn't necessarily tell you everything that you need to know, because on the surface, particularly as you get through to the weekend and the start of next week, we might well start to import some slightly colder air in off the continent. So even with warmer upper air temperatures, we might turn colder on the surface, with frost and fog perhaps becoming increasingly likely. Now, the second half of the chart takes us through the Christmas period. I won't say too much about that, because we're going to have a look at all the different options that are on the table for the Christmas period when we run through the GFS ensembles at the end of the video. But you can see, obviously, there is a huge amount of scatter there between the warmest and coldest members. So we still don't have the Christmas period resolved at all as to what's going to be taking place there over the holidays. We can say there's more precipitation spikes appearing over Christmas compared to what we have over the next week, but it is very, very uncertain quite what's going to happen as we get through into the Christmas period, and we will run through those options in a second. This is the temperature anomaly for the next week. I was showing you this yesterday. So the northwest of Europe, particularly Scandinavia, significantly milder than average. Northern Scandinavia has a temperature anomaly of around 10 degrees milder than average. Most parts of Western Europe, the British Isles included, seeing temperatures around a degree or two above average. The cold air is over in the east, particularly down into the southeast of Europe and up into western southern Russia. That's where we've got the coldest temperature anomalies going on. Precipitation shows lots of dry weather through central and western parts of Europe, so fairly mildish and dryish sums it up for the next week with this. But remember, it will be turning cooler at the weekend. This is how things are shaping up in America. So cold air is in there across the Pacific Northwest. It extends through towards the Midwest. It is a bit cold on average over in the east of the states, but nothing notably cold there, really from the Great Lakes eastwards. Doesn't look notably cold. So I'm not sure we can really blame what's happened in terms of getting milder during December. I'm not sure we can really blame that on what's happening in America. A lot of times when it's really cold in the Pacific Northwest, actually it'll be quite cold in the UK and Europe. So I don't think this time we can really blame America for the UK and Europe turning milder. So this is how the GFS is seeing things for Saturday then, building the high pressure through, and this is the point when I think we could start to bring in some slightly cooler air from the east. That continues into Sunday as well. Again, it's not a deep, entrenched Arctic easterly at all. It's just a slack easterly flow, but might start to bring some slightly colder, frostier surface air in from central parts of Europe. Into start of next week, that continues as well. And then as we move through towards the middle part of the week, that high pressure begins to shift a little bit more towards Scandinavia. So starting to pull in perhaps a slightly colder easterly wind then. This is the midnight run of the GFS, by the way. The 6 o'clock run, the latest, does look different to this, but the midnight run actually brought some quite cold air in from the east as we begin to run up towards Christmas. There's fairly coldish air moving through there. The upper air temperature showing a -5 isotherm drifting in on that easterly flow. Now, as I say, the 6 o'clock run of the GFS, which I won't show you because you're going to see virtually identical chart with the ECM in a second. The 6 o'clock run looks very different to that, so it could be that the midnight GFS went off on a bit of a tangent, bringing that slightly colder air in from the east. But if it did come off like that, we might bring some wintry showers into the east later next week. Now, this is the GFS, this is the ECMWF, I should say, and it's similar to the GFS for the weekend, so we build the ridge through the country over weekend, which probably increases our risk of frost, especially for England and Wales, maybe with some fog as well. However, what the ECMWF does, as it's been doing very regularly with its updates, is it really starts to ramp up the Atlantic and this very deep area of low pressure and the polar vortex around Greenland. So what happens as we run up towards Christmas, this takes us to the 21st of December, is that the Atlantic then is breaking through, and the Atlantic really comes in as we go through towards day 10, which is Friday 23rd of December. Wet and windy weather across the country there. And this at the same time on the midnight run of the GFS is actually putting in quite cold air from the east with high pressure still in control. So we've still got this really uncertain picture in terms of next week. Will the Atlantic break through and turn things probably quite stormy and mild, or will we continue with high pressure and maybe bring in a little bit of colder air from the east? Still going to wait and see on that one. This CFS V2 for the next month. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. So the first week takes us from the 13th through to 19th of December. And we see that we've got this ridge out to the east. We've got low pressure in the west. We're in a bit of a no man's land with jet stream doing something rather like that. So lots of dry weather coming up and not overly cold. The coldest air with this is plunging around the eastern side of the ridge, which is going down into there. So we go through to week 2. This takes us from the 20th through 26th of December, so through to the start of the Christmas period. And again, low pressure is out to west. We've got high pressure over Scandinavia. Jet stream again is doing something a bit like that. It's very close to pulling in cold air from the east, but it's just not quite right with the flow doing something a bit like that. So for Eastern Europe, yes. Southeastern Europe, yes. It's probably cold still with that. But for the west of Europe, I don't think that would be overly cold. It really isn't all that far away from it, though. Move through to week 3, which is 27th to 27th of December, through to the 2nd of January. Again, the high pressure is in over Scandinavia, big area of high pressure, low pressure in the Atlantic. Again, the jet stream doing something like that. So it remains very, very similar to what has gone before. It could be frosty with that, of course, under that ridge, but still not desperately cold. Then we go through to the 3rd through to 9th of January, and maybe signs of very subtle change then. The ridge of above average heights is still over Scandinavia, but it's beginning to move more towards the north of Scotland and through to Iceland as well. Now, the coldest air is still down here in the southeast of Europe, around this eastern side of the high, still going down there. But with the high pressure beginning to move its position, beginning to retrogress a little bit, which is going from east to west as opposed to zonal, which is west to east. With the high pressure doing that, we might be starting to pull colder air, certainly into Central Europe, so parts of Germany, Poland, Italy might be getting significantly colder with those easterly winds. And if that was to continue any more, say we was to centre the high pressure somewhere, I'll get rid of those colours, say we would centre the high pressure somewhere around there a few days later, then that really would start to bring cold air down into the UK and the west of Europe. So there are signs there that things are changing a bit as we go through into that early part of January. And certainly the suggestion is there that colder conditions might start to move in then. Have to wait and see on that, of course. Finally, do you want to have a look at the GFS ensembles for Christmas Day? Let's quickly run through. We're using MetroSeal for this, metroseal.fr, rather than Wet Essential, because when I tried to do this on sunny at Wet Essential, it went a little bit horribly wrong. So we'll start off with the control run for Christmas Day. This one just looks mild, wet and windy. Low pressure in the Atlantic, high pressure towards the east of Europe and bringing in those southwesterly winds. That's a mild one. Let's have a look at option number 2. On some member number 2 for Christmas Day, looking number 1, I should say. Looking like this, and it's cold. Look at that. We've got high pressure to the northeast. There's a cold pool just to our east. That's heading in. I would have thought that could be bringing snow showers perhaps onto the east side. That's an interesting one. What's going on with that one? This is ensemble member number 2, and this one looks mild, wet and windy for the north, mostly dry and mild for the south. I haven't been through these myself, so it's as much a surprise for me as it is for you as to what they're going to show. This is option number 4, ensemble member number 3, I should say. And this one has high pressure through the north, so it's from Iceland over towards Scandinavia, and we're in a cold easterly wind there. Maybe a few wintry flows would be possible down the east coast. Ensemble member number 5 looks wet and windy, southwesterly winds, and probably bringing gales to the north and west, with, I think, a fair amount of rain moving in there on ensemble member number 4. This is number 5, and that one looks very similar as well. So at the moment, it looks like we're trending towards Atlantic-driven Christmas. This one is quite mild and Atlantic driven. Fairly dry in the south, wet and windy in the north. Let's have a look at number 6. This is ensemble member number 6. This one looks colder. Real battle going on here. We've got a big area of high pressure over Scandinavia. We've got low pressure out in the Atlantic. And I think they are in a fairly cold air mass there. And there could be some sort of wintry weather coming in from the west with this area of low pressure hitting that cold air during that point. So that's a colder one, I think, ensemble member number 5. Ensemble member number 6. Sorry, so we go through to ensemble member number 7. And this one looks mild, wet and windy with ensemble member number 7 for Christmas Day. So quite a split between the options that are colder and the options that are milder. You certainly wouldn't want to hazard a guess in a forecast of Christmas Day at the moment. This is a bit in between. It looks fairly mildish for the north, elsewhere probably a bit on the colder side actually with ensemble member number 8. Ensemble member number 9, well, that looks really stormy in the Atlantic. Look at that. But we're actually under high pressure to the east of us. So that's probably just very quiet, dry, frosty weather. That's my punt, actually, for what I think is going to be, what it's going to be like on Christmas Day. I don't think there'll be much going on at all. Just fairly quiet and quite dry conditions. Number 10 looks more interesting. That's got high pressure towards Scandinavia. We've got low pressure out in the Atlantic. I think we're quite cold there with southeasterly winds coming in, although it does quite quickly turn milder after it. That looks like a fairly coldish Christmas Day. I assume that the days before that are pretty chilly. Yes, they are. We bring in an easterly wind, which maybe brings in some snow flurries, actually, or some snow showers to the eastern coast. Very, very close to Christmas there on ensemble member number 10. Number 11 looks quite stormy. Deep area of low pressure to the north of Scotland. Gale force winds and heavy rain sweeping the country there on Christmas Day with number 11. Number 12 looks very frosty, dry and cold under that area of high pressure. Very cold conditions into Eastern Europe. How does that pan out as we go beyond that? It looks like it stays pretty anticyclonic, quite cold too. That's a cold Christmas with ensemble member number 12. Ensemble member number 13, again quite similar to where we are right now actually. Low pressure in the Atlantic, high pressure to the east, bringing up those southerly winds. That's very quiet Christmas. And as I say, that's my guess. No more than that. That's my guess about what things will be like on Christmas Day. Ensemble number 14 looks mild, wet, windy in the north, mostly dry and mild in the south. Number 15 looks colder. This is a colder one with the low pressure stuck around Greenland. We've got a bit of a ridge over Scandinavia, and I think we are under a fairly coldish air mass. So pretty quiet Christmas there with number 15, but probably quite frosty. And then number 16, that one's Atlantic driven too. I think overall the ensemble members are trending more onto the milder side of things right now, albeit there are several colder options still at play. But number 16 is pretty indicative of a lot of what we've seen so far for these ensemble members. Fairly mild, wet and windy with that one. Number 17 looks quite a bit colder there. High pressure is more dominant over Scandinavia. Certainly for England and Wales, I think we would have frost with ensemble member number 17. Number 18 is mild, wet and windy for Christmas Day. And then penultimately, number 19, that one also looking fairly mild. England and Wales could be frosty. Further north, cloud and rain. And then finally, we've reached ensemble member number 20, and that one also Atlantic driven and westerly. So I think overall the ensemble GEFS ensembles have moved more onto the onto the milder and more Atlantic driven side of things, away from the colder side of things for Christmas. Although you'll notice they're minimal, but there are several options there that are still colder. So I wouldn't want to give a forecast of Christmas at all at the moment. I think it's far too early to do that. There's far too many options that are deviating with one another. Has trended a little bit onto the milder side of things for Christmas, but there's so many cold members still there, albeit they aren't the majority, that you can't guarantee we won't see the GFS ensembles shifting back into the colder side of things. So just going to wait and see what's going to happen. It's very exciting this year. Certainly a colder Christmas is more possible this year than it has been over the past few years, but that doesn't necessarily mean we will get one, of course. So let's just wait and see. We'll be doing the next update, which I think is the 21st Christmas update, tomorrow evening. Be quite exciting to see what that one shows. Right, that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Gone on a bit longer than normal for a weekday video. I had a lot to cram in today. Hope you enjoyed it. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.